Shalom, shalom, peace and blessings. Now let's get straight into it. So today's lesson is on if Eve actually came from Adam's rib. A brother emailed me a question about this. I'll probably put it on the screen. And from my understanding, this has been a point of contention for a lot of other brothers at this current time. It's a quote unquote debate that's been going on with certain brothers in the quote unquote Israelite community, if Eve actually came from Adam's rib. So if Genesis 2:21 is referring to Adam's physical rib being taken out of his body to create the woman Eve. So my stance, I'll just go ahead and tell you straight up, is that this was not referring to Genesis 2:21 is not referring to Adam's actual rib coming out of his rib cage to develop a human woman named Eve, his wife. Okay, but I'm going to go through and tell you exactly where I get this from, what scriptures I pull, or where I get that understanding from. And not just me, but many other brothers. Okay, so very first thing I want to cover here is Genesis 2:21. And by the way, this lesson is going to be a little bit, I won't say quote unquote deeper. I want to use that word, but it definitely takes a certain level of understanding of the scriptures. So if you're newer, just try to listen through all the way into the end and actually play it over again if you need to, or whatever the case. I'm not saying like I'm deep or I just have a deeper understanding of the scriptures, but I just know that if you're newer and you're used to the biblical narrative that's given to us in the church system in Christianity, then this is going to be a big surprise for you. All right, at least my perspective will be, but we'll see where I'm getting that from. Let's get straight down to it, brothers. Let's get Genesis 2:21. It says, "And the Lord God caused a deep sleep to fall upon Adam, and he slept. And he took one of his ribs and closed up the flesh instead thereof." Verse 22, "And the rib which the Most High Yahweh had taken from man, made he a woman and brought her into the man. And Adam said, This is now bone of my bones and flesh of my flesh. She shall be called woman because she was taken out of man." So we have to understand something very quickly here. Let's go to Proverbs chapter 1 and verse 6. It says, "To understand a proverb and the interpretation, the words of the wise and their dark sayings." Verse 7, "The fear of the Lord is the beginning of knowledge, but fools despise wisdom and instruction." So you have to understand that the scriptures are filled with what's called dark sayings, things that are hard to interpret, things that are hard to understand. The scriptures are filled with it. In particular, Genesis and Revelation, meaning if you think about it this way, the beginning and the end of the Bible are filled with a massive amount of dark sayings, parabolic sayings, okay, that are hard to understand. And the Most High did this on purpose. That's one thing that you really have to understand about this. The Most High made it to where only his chosen elect would understand the scriptures on the basis that they were meant to be understood on. The understanding of the scriptures is not given to the whole world. Okay, not for every single man or woman to understand of all nations. It's only made for his elect people. That's it. Everyone else will not get the understanding of the scriptures, whether you break it down to them, you show them this, you make your own breakdown, show them somebody else's, you go into the etymology of words, you go into the history of words, whatever type of breakdown that you do, those that the Most High is just not dealing with will not get the understanding. So there's just nothing that you can do about that. Okay, there are dark sayings in the scriptures, again, especially in the book of Genesis. So before you even get to the point where you take things at face value, that's the first thing that you really have to comprehend. And I say in Genesis and Revelation, particularly in the book of Revelation, starting around the 4th chapter all the way into the end, is mainly where you find a lot of the parabolic and dark sayings are in the scriptures, because the first few chapters are a little bit more at face value. But when you start seeing at around chapter 4 where the parables start to take place, and really from the very beginning of the scriptures, there are things that are put here for in a specific way to where, again, only a certain lot of people, meaning the so-called black man and woman, the elect, all right, the Israelites of the scriptures are only meant to understand, and that's it. And not just so-called black people. It's not about this, the skin color. It's about the seed line. Okay, for those of you that are newer to that understanding. All right, let's get Matthew 13:10. And the disciples came and said unto him, Why speakest thou unto them in parables? Verse 11. He answered and said unto them, Because it is given unto you to know the mysteries of the kingdom of heaven, but to them it is not given. For whosoever hath, to him shall be given, and he shall have more abundance. But whosoever hath not, from him shall be taken away even that he hath. Verse 13, Therefore speak I to them in parables, because they seeing see not, and hearing they hear not, neither do they understand. So again, it's not just about your so-called skin color, because understand that the Pharisees were Israelites, okay, and the other groups too as well, the Sadducees, so on and so forth. They were Israelites, meaning they had a quote unquote skin color, but they didn't have the understanding, because from a spiritual standpoint, the Most High was not dealing with them, because they were looking at quote unquote keeping the law only from a physical standpoint and not the spiritual aspect, which a lot of our people that call themselves quote unquote in the truth, they have that issue with now. But anyways, either way, you have to understand that. So, and another thing is you have to break down the stronghold of Christianity, which is the most wicked doctrine on planet Earth, because it's the closest, or appears to be, not the closest, but appears to be the closest to the truth of the scriptures. Okay. Every good lie and deception that has to mimic the truth. Okay. Every good replica, whether it be some J's, brothers out here buying them reps. No, I'm just playing. I don't care if you do either way, but, now seriously though, any brothers that, wear Jordans or whatever the case already know that any good replica, or they call them reps, they have to look similar to the real thing, right? Or if it's quote unquote designer, Gucci and Prada and Louis Vuitton and all that, if it looks close to the original, then, it's a better deception than if it looked just completely off. Like if back to the J's, if the Jordan logo, look like Jordan doing a layup or something, he look like a Shaq logo or something, you're going to know it's a fake. But if everything looks almost the same outside of something like inside of the sole or the shoe or something, or the material is different, but you can't see it unless you actually feel it, then, it's going to be a good replica. And that's what Christianity is. All right. It appears to be the true understanding of the scriptures, but it's far from it. And I've never seen any Christianity or any church that's under the doctrine of Christianity bring out the truth of the scriptures. Okay. And especially when it comes to topics like this, that's why it just goes over most of our people's heads. And then the problem is that you have a lot of these guys out here that quote unquote getting the truth, and they still embrace a lot of the tenets of Christianity, like virgin birth, or and that's a big that's a huge stumbling block that a lot of brothers just can't get over, or something like this, where you think that Eve really came from Adam's actual rib. But we gonna get that. I just have to frame, preface that before we even get into what we're looking at, because again, you have to understand that that's how the scriptures work. Okay, Yahushua said it here himself when he was speaking to the disciples. He spoke to the people in parables. The scriptures are in parables. Yahushua is the word, right? So the word is written in parabolic form. it's actually more parabolic than it is taken as face value, except for the times where you see where, men are interacting with men, so on and so forth. You could take that for face value, obviously, more times than not. But even then, it depends on the situation. But when you see the prophet speaking, a lot of times it's parabolic. The Most High says some things direct, and sometimes he says things that are not. Let's get an example of that. This is 2nd Esdras chapter 14. And then we just start at the top, verse 1. And it came to pass, upon the 3rd day, I sat under an oak, and behold, there came a voice out of a bush over against me and said, Esdras, Esdras, or Ezra, Ezra, of the scriptures, the prophet Ezra. Or verse 2, and I said, Here I am, Lord, and I stood up upon my feet. Verse 3, then said he unto me, In the bush I did manifestly reveal myself unto Moses. So this is an angel of the Most High revealing himself also to Ezra. Let's see what he says here. Then said he unto me, In the bush I did manifestly reveal myself unto Moses, and talked with him when my people served in Egypt. So this is an angel speaking on behalf of the Most High, like he always does. So you see, he's speaking as if this is in first person, but this isn't actually the Most High there physically speaking to Ezra, but an angel speaking on behalf of the Most High, just like a prophet is. A prophet speaks on behalf of the Most High in his voice. All right. Verse 4, and I sent him and led my people out of Egypt and brought him up to the Mount of Sinai, referring to Moses, where I held him by me a long season. Verse 5, and told him many wondrous things, and showed him the secrets of the times and the end, and commanded him, saying, These words shalt thou declare, and these shalt thou hide. So the Most High gave Moses instruction. There's certain words, there were certain prophecies, there were certain things that Moses was supposed to bring out. Remember, Moses wrote the book of Genesis. So he wrote the first 5 books of the Bible, at least most of the first 5 books of the Bible, right? Moses wrote it. So within this, you see, this is actual evidence to show you that the Most High literally instructed Moses to hide certain things. And by hiding, he could literally mean hiding within the words that are written. And there's some things that just wasn't written at all. Okay, we see that like in the book of Luke with Yahushua, or the book of John. Yahushua did not, all of his exploits, all of his miracles, his whole life was not written. We won't know these things until later on, at least those that are blessed to given that understanding in the kingdom. But either way, everything was not written, but even out of the things that are written, everything is not made manifest. Okay, so just keep that in mind. Again, some things are hidden. Okay, so this is a more hidden understanding. And why I say that? Because the words that are being used here, like the word rib, okay, it could be taken as in literal, but it's not meant to literally be taken literal. It's not what actually happened. It's very easy to see once you get the understanding. Okay, and that's why you have to use precept upon precept, line upon line, here a little and there a little. Now, let's go back to Genesis 2, and let's start from verse 18. So this is Genesis, the 2nd chapter. Let's go to verse 18. It says, and Yahweh said, or it reads directly here, and it reads directly, and the Lord God said, It is not good that the man should be alone. I will make him an helpmeet for him. So one thing you have to understand about this is that this is not referring to, the Most High is not referring to making the woman in general. He's referring to making him, or even when I say make, as in Adam did not have a wife. This is not referring to the whole gender of the woman. Okay. And that's one big part of the confusion here is that most people read this verse when it says it is not good that the man should be alone, as in there was no other women around. And that's not the case. Matter of fact, that's the first thing that we have to establish here. The first thing that we have to establish here is that Adam and Eve were not the only people on earth at this time. By the time that you're reading in Genesis 2, there are many people on planet Earth. Okay, Adam was the chosen man, the chosen Adam. That's why we read about him in Genesis 2. And then Eve in Genesis, eventually at the end of Genesis 2, and then Adam and Eve both in Genesis 3. Because they were the chosen man and woman, but not because they were the only man and woman. That's a huge difference. Okay, Adam was like Christ before Christ, at least on the earth. He was the man that was given a task to deliver the statute, laws, and commandments to the other people. Okay. But he fumbled the bag, as we would say now, and he fell. Okay. Which caused all of mankind to fall. But either way, that's what you read about here in Genesis 2. That's the first thing we have to establish, because when you understand that, it makes it a lot easier to see what actually happened. Okay. Adam and Eve were not the only men and women that were alive at this time. But let's prove that. Let's go to Genesis chapter 1. This is very, very simple. Very, very simple. This one is not deep at all, really. You just have to actually read the Bible and not go by what the church tells you. Okay. Let's go to Genesis chapter 1 and verse 27. So God created man in his own image. In the image of God created he him. Male and female created he them. So on the sixth day, you see that the Most High created male and female already. Genesis 2, not just because 2 is literally after 1, but Genesis 2 takes place after mankind was already created. It literally happens afterwards. Okay, Genesis 2 didn't happen before, and then the Most High created everybody. He just started out with those two. And then Genesis 1 and 27 just kind of takes place afterwards or something like that. No, everything was decent and in order. So the Most High made everything in creation. And then boom, that's where we see Adam and Eve come into effect. But you see, it literally says here that the Most High created male and female. He, them, created he, them. Okay, they were created from dirt. Man and woman was created whole. Not from a rib. Women weren't created from ribs, like an actual rib cage. Okay. They were created whole from the dirt. That's how mankind was created. Again, whole. Let's get verse 28. And God blessed them, and God said unto them, be fruitful. So how could he give a commandment for man and woman to be fruitful if there was only one? There was only Adam and Eve. Or if it was only Adam at first and then Eve, did this? I don't read verse 28 in Genesis 2. So when would this take place? Okay. This had already happened by the time we read about Adam and Eve. But it says, be fruitful and multiply and replenish the earth and subdue it and have dominion over the fish of the sea and over the fowl of the air and over every living thing that moveth upon the earth. So what we're seeing here is that the Most High created mankind, man and woman, created he, them, and then he told them to be fruitful and to multiply and replenish the earth and subdue it. Okay, you can't be fruitful without men and women. He wasn't talking to just the man Adam, So this already would be something that would be hard to deal with if you're going by the narrative that Adam and Eve were the only people alive, and especially before Eve was created, as people think around verse 21 in Genesis 2, this would be hard to, this would be kind of hard to deal with here. All right. Verse 29, God said, behold, I have given you every green herb bearing seed, which is upon the face of all the earth, and every tree in the which is the fruit of a tree yielding seed. To you it shall be for meat. Verse 30, and to every beast of the earth and to every fowl of the air, and to everything that creepeth upon the earth, wherein there is life, I have given every green tree for meat, and it was so. Verse 31, and God saw everything that he had made, and behold, it was very good. And the evening and the morning were the sixth day. So this all went down on the sixth day. So really what you would be saying, if you're saying that Adam or Eve was created from Adam, you would then have to conclude that once Eve was created, I guess then this happened, and then the sixth day ended, and then the Sabbath, that seventh day, which, by the way, this is also something that you can't take for face value, because when it says sixth day, this is not referring to a literal 24-hour period where men and women were created in 24 hours. Can the Most High, could he have done that if he wanted to? Of course. It's not about his ability, because a lot of people say that. That's the first thing when they pull. Oh, you saying, brother, that Most High couldn't make? No, I'm not saying the Most High can't or can't do anything. All I'm saying is that this is not referring to a 24-hour period. But either way, let's say if it is, right? We know the seventh day was the Sabbath. So you would say that, you would have to say then or conclude that Eve was created from Adam, and then the seventh day happened, because that's the only way this would make sense. Because if they were both created and then this took place, I mean, this doesn't make sense, because he never told Adam and Eve to be fruitful and multiply and replenish the earth. So this would have to be afterwards. That means that the Sabbath would have to take place afterwards, and we just cannot reconcile that based on what we have here. Okay, it just doesn't add up. But let's get more evidence. Maybe that's not enough for you. Okay, let's get Genesis chapter 4 and verse 17. This is a classic. Most people kind of understand this or know about this, that understand that Adam and Eve weren't the only humans in existence at the time of Genesis 2. Okay. Genesis chapter 4 and verse 17. We can go into more of Cain and Abel, or Cain himself, but let's just keep it simple for this lesson's sake. It says, and Cain knew his wife, and she conceived and bare Enoch, and he builded a city and called the name of the city after the name of his son Enoch. So we know Cain was exiled for killing his brother, all right, Abel. But what happened here is, once he was exiled, he went and found a wife. How could have Cain found a wife if it was only Adam and Eve? Because we know Cain and Abel were their offspring. So how in the world is it that he went and found a wife immediately after leaving the Garden of Eden? How? Where would this other person come from? Where would this wife come from? Okay, because we don't see that account of that. But where? It's because Genesis 1 and 27, they were already around. They were already created. People were already around, more than just one person. So once you understand that, it helps you digest Genesis 2 a lot easier. Okay, let's get Genesis chapter 5 and verse 1. And I think I've went over this before in other lessons, but this is relevant for this lesson when it comes to Adam and Eve. Okay. And, you know, this point of contention here, whether Eve actually came from Adam's literal rib. Let's get Genesis chapter 5 and verse 1. This is the book of the generations of Adam. In the day that God created man, in the likeness of God made he him. Male and female created he them, and blessed them, and called their name Adam, in the day when they were created. Male and female were created. Brothers and sisters, that's it. So if this isn't enough for you, I don't know what would be. You know, and if you just didn't know, you just didn't know. So I'm not clowning you or nothing if you just didn't know, but now you do know. You know, you got to deal with this. Genesis 5 is kind of hard to escape. All right. Male and female created he them, and blessed them. Okay. In Genesis 1, male and female, man and woman was created, both of them. Not Adam having to take out an actual rib off his rib cage and creating a woman from a rib. Okay? Man and women were already created. Okay? Now that we have that established, and we could go get more. Matter of fact, let's actually get more. I got more pulled up. Okay, so this will help out a lot too when it comes to Genesis 2. I've also went over this several times in many different lessons, but just in case you haven't seen them or whatever the case, maybe it's your first time here. If so, shalom to you. All right, let's get Ezekiel chapter 31 and verse 1. Speaking of parabolic speech in the scriptures, it says, "And it came to pass in the 11th year, in the 3rd month, in the 1st day of the month, that the word of the Most High came unto me, saying, Son of man, speak unto Pharaoh, king of Egypt, and to his multitude, whom art thou like in thy greatness?" So we see here, 11th year, 3rd month, 1st day of the month, word of the Lord came unto me. So this is Ezekiel, but what we see here, Son of man speaking to Pharaoh, king of Egypt, and unto his multitude, who art thou like in thy greatness? From verse 3 on down, for the next, 10 verses or so, this is actually referring to the man Adam, parabolically. How do I know that? Let's read. Verse 3, "Behold, the Assyrian." So is this Assyrian? Is this actually referring to a literal Syrian? Let's see. "The Assyrian was a cedar in Lebanon with fair branches and with a shadowing shroud and of an high stature, and his top was among the thick boughs." So this Assyrian was a cedar, which is a tree. An Assyrian, which is, if you were to take this literal, would be an actual man from Assyria. Can it also be a tree? Can a tree have a property like high stature and his top was among the trees? Do trees have genders? Literally? We know it's not. So this is parabolic that we're reading here. Okay, when you set your sight for that, is a lot easier to see. Verse 4, "The waters made him great. The deep set him up on high, with her rivers running round about his plants, and sent out her little rivers into all the trees of the field." Just by going here, if we start breaking this all the way down, it's going to make the lesson way too long, because I want to explain trees of the field. But as you see here, this is not referring to an actual tree. The waters made him great. Could this be referring to an actual tree? Let's see verse 5. "Therefore his height was exalted above all the trees of the field," aka all the men of the field, referring to Adam. Okay, when he had the breath of life. Okay, when he was given the knowledge, the statute, laws, and commandments, he was exalted above all the trees. That's how we know who Adam is. Okay, he was that first prophet, the first deliverer, the first Messiah figure on planet Earth. And his boughs were multiplied, and his branches became long because of the multitude of waters, aka the knowledge of the scriptures. Okay, when he shot forth, all the fowls of heaven made their nests in his boughs. Everybody follow Adam. "And under his branches did all the beasts of the field bring forth their young. And under his shadow dwelt all great nations." So all great nations. How is it that a tree, the great nations are under a tree? Nations are normally only referred to as people. Okay, you've never seen like a nation of tigers, right? A nation of any animal of that sort. It's only referring to actual people. Okay, verse 7. "Thus was he fair in his greatness, in the length of his branches, for his root was by great waters." the knowledge, wisdom, and discernment from the Most High, at least until it wasn't. Verse 8, the setters in the garden of God. The setters in the garden of God. What's the garden of God? The Garden of Eden. The setters in the Garden of Eden. Excuse me. It's like the setters in the garden of God could not hide him. The fir trees were not like his boughs, and the chestnut trees were not like his branches. So the other nations, okay, nor any tree in the garden of the Most High was like unto him in his beauty. So no other man was like the man Adam. Okay. So his stature is referring to physically, but also just how exalted he was based on what the Most High chose him to do. But again, I'm just showing you the setters in the garden of God. That's referring to the Garden of Eden. This is referring to Adam. Under his shadow dwelt all great nations. That's referring to people. And it's also, again, while we're even here in the first place, this proves that there was more than one person at the time of Adam. There were great nations at this time. Okay, not only were there people, there were nations, the ancient nations that we just don't see. Okay, we don't get all of their names like we do with the more recent nations here in the scriptures. Okay, we didn't get the name of the nations at the time of Adam. All right, but there were great nations. Verse 9, I have made him fair by the multitude of his branches, so that all of the trees of Eden, just in case you thought I was making that up, or you hadn't got to this point yet, that were in the garden of God envied him. That's why the serpent came and beguiled Eve. It was out of envy. Okay. That's why the serpent is likened into Satan. Okay. Because that's a satanic spiritual entity, which is envy or jealousy. Okay. That's a demon. To have envy in your spirit, that's satanic. Okay. That caused the fall of mankind. Now, I could keep going. A few more. The terrible of the nations have cut him off. So we could keep going to prove this, but I just wanted to show you one more time that, again, Adam was not the only man. But we've been going for a while now. We haven't actually covered Genesis 2. So let's go back here. Let's talk about what actually happened. All right. It took me a minute to kind of get through some of the scriptures and really talk that through. But again, if you're newer, then you have to have this understanding that the scriptures are not at face value. Okay. Or it just won't make sense, because what I'm about to say is going to be, it may be shocking to some people, not to others, but for some, you might be like, what in the world is this dude talking about? But anyways, verse 19, back in Genesis chapter 2. And out of the ground, the Lord God formed every beast of the field and every fowl of the air, and brought them unto Adam to see what he would call them. And whatsoever Adam called every living creature, that was the name thereof. Now I have a lesson. It's called the beasts of the field, the life of Adam, or something to that extent, where I talk about how sometimes where you see the beast of the field is actually referring to the nations. Okay. I'll put that lesson, Lord willing, I'll put that lesson in the description. Okay. Verse 20. And Adam gave names to all cattle and to the fowl of the air and to every beast of the field. But for Adam, there was not found an helpmeet for him. And helpmeet is a wife, not a woman. So Adam is not the only man, and it's not that he's never seen a woman before, and the Most High had not made a woman. This is the creation of the woman, or the gender known as women, or the woman. This is not that. This is saying that Adam did not have a wife. Okay. He named the other nations even, but did not have a wife for himself. Verse 21. Now let's get to it. And the Lord God caused a deep sleep to fall upon Adam, and he slept. And he took one of his ribs and closed up the flesh instead thereof. Verse 22. And the rib which the Lord God had taken from man, made he a woman and brought her into the man. Verse 23. And Adam said, this is now bone of my bones and flesh of my flesh. She shall be called woman because she was taken out of man. Verse 24. Therefore shall a man leave his father and his mother. Where's father and mother coming from if Adam is the only man and Eve is now the only woman? What's this about a father and mother? How would they know anything about a father and mother? How would anybody know anything about a father and mother when there is no father and mother? It's just Adam and Eve on the earth, right? That's what we've been taught. But it's just clear as day here, just right here, Genesis 2:24, that Adam says, therefore shall a man leave his father and his mother and shall cleave unto his wife, and they shall be one flesh. He already knew what a wife was. He just didn't have one. Okay. And they were both naked, the man and his wife, and were not ashamed. Meaning they were green. Okay. They didn't know what sin was. They were green. What we call green. Meaning they're shameless. Okay. Now, with that being said, what actually happened here? Let's go back up, read through it first. I'm going to just say it and we're going to get straight to it because, again, it is a lot for some. When it says here, and the Lord God caused a deep sleep to fall upon Adam and he slept, this is not Adam going into surgery. He didn't get anesthesia. It says a deep sleep. It's not talking about Adam, going to a coma or getting a deep sleep. He got anesthesia, so he getting ready for the surgery. He just floating up in the air and he getting ready for surgery. The Most High put him under and then, prepared a surgery team, and he just, took out one of his ribs. Which rib, I don't know, but took out one of 12 ribs and just, just start creating a human out of it. And he didn't feel it, because he was put into a deep sleep. We see a deep sleep all over the scriptures. Okay, this is what happens when a prophet is receiving a great vision from the Most High. They go into a deep sleep. Okay, let's get Job chapter 4 and verse 13. In thoughts from the visions of the night, when deep sleep falleth on men. Verse 14. Fear come upon me, and trembling, which made all my bones to shake. Verse 15. Then a spirit passed before my face, the hair of my flesh stood up. So when men are getting a revelation from the Most High, this is normally what happens. You see this all throughout the scriptures. They have a certain, they have a deep sleep that comes upon certain men. Okay. They go into what you would call a trance. And that's why, you'd be hard pressed to call yourself a prophet in these days, because if you're not getting this deep sleep, you're not getting to this trance and getting a direct word from the Most High. You're not really delivering the Most High words with just messengers. But a prophet is a whole different, vocation. All right. Verse 6 in Numbers chapter 12. And he said, hear now my words. If there be a prophet among you, I, the Lord, will make myself known unto him in a vision and will speak unto him in a dream. So this is about Aaron and Miriam, whole nother story. But either way, we see the Most High saying, if there is a prophet, the Most High will make himself known to a prophet in a vision. He has to go into a deep sleep to get that dream, or to get that vision while he's in a dreamlike state, a trance. Okay. And we'll speak to him in a dream. All right. So that's what's happening here. You must be in a deep sleep for this vision. Okay. That's it. Again, that's why you should not profess yourself to be a prophet these days. A lot of brothers say I'm a prophet, and the prophets bring it out, and you better not talk crazy to the prophets. Unless you got this vision from the Most High, you're not really a prophet. When I say really, I mean you're just not a prophet at all. And you also see this in Genesis 15 as well with Abram, at least Abram at that time, or Abraham. Let's get Job chapter 33 and verse 15. In a dream, in a vision of the night, when deep sleep falleth upon men, and slumberings upon the bed. Verse 16, then he opened the ears of men and sealed their instruction, that he may withdraw man from his purpose and hide pride from man. That's the deep sleep that Adam was going in. He was getting a vision from the Most High. That's it. Okay. He was not getting ready for surgery. That's what I believe a lot of people think when they see this. Okay. That's not what was happening. All right. When you see a deep sleep again, it's all over the scriptures, man. Like I said, Genesis, I don't think I had those some pull up. I think Genesis 15. What verse is? I think it's towards the top. Abram promised a son. If these things were my shield. I know it's here. Either way, the whole point is that there we go. Okay, verse 12. And when the sun was going down, a deep sleep fell upon Abram, and lo, and horror of great darkness fell upon him. And he said unto Abram, you see, the Most High started speaking to Abram after he went into this deep sleep, went into a trance. Even used the word trance in the scriptures. Let's get that. Go into a trance. Okay. Like you see with Bilal here in Numbers chapter 24 and 4. And he said, which heard the words of the Most High, which saw the vision of the Almighty, falling into a trance and having his eyes open. That's what's happening to Adam right now. Okay, he's falling into a trance to receive a vision from the Most High about Eve, but not, he could have received more than just that. All right, because he was a prophet, at least at this time, while the Most High was dealing with him. So he could have received more than that. But either way, that's what was happening with Adam. He was not getting ready for surgery. He was not getting ready to feel no pain because a literal rib was being taken out of his body. Okay. He was falling into a trance like state. Okay. And I'm going to these scriptures because when you're trying to break something down in the scriptures, you have to go to the Bible for that understanding. You can't just read something and then just run with it based on what you see at face value every time, because this is the situation you deal with. You have other scriptures that explain certain events, but if you don't know the scriptures, or you don't think to go to these scriptures or to find scriptures or to find a correlation, then you're going to think everything is just taken at face value, and it's not. Okay. Verse 21 again in Genesis chapter 2. And the Lord God caused a deep sleep to fall upon Adam, and he slept. So he wasn't sleepy. He was just taking a nap. All right, it's not what was happening with Adam. He was receiving this vision from the Most High. He was going into this trance, this deep sleep that the Most High puts on his prophets when he's receiving a vision or he's giving his word into them. Okay, that explains that. It's not is not in relation to like a pain threshold or him just, the Most High not wanting him to feel the pain of his rib being gone now. Okay, it says here, and he took one of his ribs and closed up the flesh instead thereof. What's actually happening here? Eve taken from Adam's rib means that she was. Let me just come out and say it right. Eve taken from Adam's rib means that Eve was Adam's wife. Okay, they had sex here essentially to seal the deal on the marriage. Okay, and not only that, But when it says one of his ribs is one of his close relatives, like we read all the time in the scripture. So more than likely, Adam and Eve were cousins, like a first cousin or something to that extent. It doesn't say exactly what it was, but you have to understand at this time, for the Most High to reserve the nations, he had close relatives, to keep the seed line together. He would have close relatives marry. Okay. And again, if you don't know the scriptures for that, or you're not used to it, I know it sounds crazy. Like what's going on with this cousin stuff? You don't have to do that now because the world has been replenished and have been a long time ago. But at this time where you would have, again, seed lines being protected, it's the same thing. It's the same concept that you see with Lot's daughters, right? Remember Lot's daughters? Except that they went into their father, right? Which was off. But that's why you don't even read in the law that it's unlawful to take your cousin to wife, is because of this. I'm not telling you to wife your cousin now. I shouldn't even have to say that, because don't do that. However, I'm saying at this time, that's what normally will happen. Okay. So that's what a rib means, but we're going to get that understanding. Okay. Not just throwing anything out there. Let's get the scriptures. So let's get Genesis chapter 29. Let's just go straight to it. Genesis chapter 29 and verse 14. And Laban said to him, matter of fact, let's go back a few verses. Let's go to verse 10 in Genesis chapter 29. And it came to pass when Jacob saw Rachel, the daughter of Laban, his mother's brother. So what does that make Jacob and Laban? Jacob saw Rachel, the daughter of Laban, his mother's brother. So that makes Jacob and Laban uncle and nephew. So what do you call your uncle's daughter? Your cousin. And the sheep of Laban, his mother's brother, that Jacob went near and rolled the stone from the well's mouth and watered the flock of Laban, his mother's brother. And Jacob kissed Rachel and lifted up his voice and wept. Man, my boy wept. In verse 12, and Jacob told Rachel that he was her father's brother and that he was Rebekah's son. And she ran and told her father. Verse 13, and it came to pass when Laban heard the tidings of Jacob, his sister's son, that he ran to meet him. So he's emphasizing that his sister's son, that he ran to meet him and embraced him and kissed him and brought him to his house. And he told Laban all these things. Now read verse 14. And Laban said to him, surely thou art my bone and my flesh. And he abode with him the space of a month. So we already established that Laban and Jacob were uncle and nephew. Laban being the uncle, Jacob being the nephew. You see what Laban told Jacob. He said, thou art my bone and my flesh. This is a saying. Matter of fact, they got this saying from Adam and Eve, more than likely. But either way, this is a saying to say that someone is your relative, your family, your blood. Just like we say today, that's my blood. Okay. You're talking about a relative, right? That's my blood. All right. My bone and my flesh. That's my flesh right there. Okay. We have sayings like that out now. All right. But when you see this, my bone and my flesh, that's a close relative. Okay. Or someone within your same nation. Like we see in 2 Samuel chapter 5. So let's get 2 Samuel chapter 5 and verse 1. Then came all the tribes of Israel to David unto Hebron. So all of the tribe of, not the tribe, I almost said the tribe of David, Salakia. Salakia, let me just read this and then we'll get to it to make more sense. Then came all the tribes of Israel to David unto Hebron and spake, saying, behold, we are thy bone and thy flesh. So you see, the Israelites referred to David and said, "Behold, we are thy bone and thy flesh." It looks similar to what Adam said, right? Bone of my bone and the flesh of my flesh. Again, more than likely, since they read the scriptures and they know about Adam, they could have got this from Adam. Either it was just a saying at the time, or they could have got this from Adam directly. But either way, again, thy bone and thy flesh, or saying someone is your bone and your flesh, is saying they're your relative. Okay. A close relative too, more than likely. Okay. So, especially with David, the tribe of Judah, that's what I was going to say earlier. But this is all the tribes of Israel here saying this. All right. Close kin. Behold, we are thy bone and thy flesh. So that's what happened here. So this was not literal. When it says here, and he took one of his ribs, that's saying one of his close relatives, his cousin or something to that extent, took one of his ribs, one of his close relatives. Okay, because a rib is a bone. All right, so it's the same thing. You see, thy bone and thy flesh, or the bone of my bone, the flesh of my flesh. Okay, a close relative. And they sealed up the deal. It says, close up the flesh instead thereof. The hint you have for that is verse 24, where it says, therefore shall a man leave his father and his mother, and shall cleave unto his wife, and they shall be one flesh. So can you take that literal? So when you have a wife, do y'all literally become one person? Like Dragon Ball Z, like you become fused with your wife. Now you literally one person. No, you don't literally fuse. You don't literally become one flesh. This is parabolic for saying, on a physical level, we know that's referring to sex, sexual intercourse. Or you're one flesh when the penis enters in, right? You become one flesh. All right. But on a spiritual level, you're in line. You have one mind. Okay. You have the exact same goals, aspirations. You're in one alignment. You have each other's best interests at heart, you and your wife, or your wife and your husband. Okay. That's how you become one spiritually, one flesh. All right. That's what it means to be married. So you're not in a true marriage if, the wife and the husband are on two separate accords. But if you're on the same page, you're one flesh. On the spiritual standpoint, physically, again, sexual intercourse, where you are literally one flesh. But how come we read this in verse 24? We already know this don't mean literal, but then we just gonna think verse 21 is just literal. It's not, but that's what it means by close up the flesh instead thereof. They had sex. Adam and Eve did. That's why from this point on, for the most part, you will see Eve being referred to after verse 23, you will see Eve being referred to as his wife. Okay. Because that's how you seal the deal or consummated the marriage, is through sex. Okay. So this is not literal for the Most High taking one of Adam's literal ribs. This is a relative, his bone and his flesh. Okay. Someone close in his seed line or in his nation. Okay, a close relative took one of his ribs, one of his close relatives, and closed up the flesh instead thereof. Again, that's referring to sex. That's not referring to like his rib came out and then the flesh closed. He grew another rib, something like that. It's all happened while he's sleeping. And he just woke up talking about, leaving the father and his mother, and just like ain't nothing happened. Adam recovered quick from surgery, looked like. I'm joking because, if you believe in that, you could say, this took place way after and we just don't read it. I get it. So I'm joking. But to the point, though, seriously, this is what this is referring to. Okay. Hopefully that makes sense. All right. Do we have more scriptures on it? And another thing is, too, let's get Hosea chapter 12 and verse 10. I have also spoken by the prophets like Adam at this time, And I have multiplied visions and used similitudes by the ministry of the prophets. Similitudes are always used in the scriptures, meaning something that's similar, all right, to something else to convey a message. That's why so-called black people like rap so much, and R&B, rhythm and blues, and rap, which is rhythm and poetry. Poetry is parabolic. All poetry pretty much is parabolic. Okay, you have different types of poems or poetry, but for the most part, it's parabolic. Okay, that's why it resonates with our spirit so much. You have to really think about that. One of the main things that so-called black people know by, not every, of course, not all of us, but that's why we're known for liking rap. We are some of the main rappers. That's rhythm and poetry. Okay, it's a similitude being used. If you say it's raining cats and dogs, that's a similitude. It's not literally raining cats and dogs. Whatever similitude you want to use. So when it says a rib here, this is a similitude. This is not an actual rib coming out of Adam's body. You understand? Because the Most High used similitudes for the prophets. Okay, by the ministry of the prophets. Adam was a prophet at this time. Okay, that's why he went into the deep sleep in the first place. Okay. Another point. Let's get Tobit chapter 4 and verse 12. Beware of all whoredom, my son, and chiefly take a wife of the seed of thy fathers. Do you understand that when it came to taking a wife, not only were you supposed to take a wife of Israel or a daughter of Israel, okay, of the same nation of the Israelites, but of the same tribe as well. So if you were the tribe of, like here, they're the tribe of Naphtali, you're supposed to be with a Naphtali woman, not with a woman of Judah or an Ephraimite woman. Okay. You're supposed to be with a woman from the exact same tribe out of the 12 tribes too as well. So everybody else, it would be a weird woman, as the scriptures calls it. Okay. And take not a strange woman or a strange woman to wife, which is not of thy father's tribe. For we are the children of the prophets, Noah, Abraham, Isaac, and Jacob. Remember, my son, here we go, read this, that our fathers from the beginning, aka even Adam, even that they all married wives of their own kindred. Adam, you can't get any more from the beginning than Adam as far as our fathers, right? Because everyone comes from Adam. Everyone from all nations come from Adam. Okay. And what did they do? Including Adam, married wives of their own kindred. Adam is no exception. So what it says, taking a rib, took one of his ribs, that was one of his relatives, one of his kindred. Okay, married a wife of his own kindred. And we, Slaki, and were blessed. Slaki means excuse me in the Hebrew, if someone doesn't know. Either way, and were blessed in their children, and their seed shall inherit the land. Okay, so Adam knew the laws too as well. So keep that in mind. He knew the laws. And when we were able to discern the difference between, who tribe was what, this was a law that was strictly kept. Okay, at least for the most part. You would marry a wife of your own tribe. Now, this wasn't every single time, but for the most part, you would do that. Okay, and that's why, because Adam knew the laws. Okay, he knew the customs of our people, which this would be more of a custom because you did see men like Moses take on wives of other nations. Okay, so this was more of a custom, but we do read this also in Deuteronomy, the 7th chapter too as well, right? You're supposed to take on a wife of your own nation. And again, in this time, at least in the time of Adam, because this is a separate time, of course, Tobiah and Tobit. But you see here again, married wives of their own kindred. Okay, Eve and and Adam were related. Okay. Now from here, I think I made the point well enough at this point. So now I just want to go over some of the scriptures that, will kind of throw some brothers off if they're thinking that Adam was the only man and things of that nature. So let's grab a few more scriptures before we head out. Let's get 1 Corinthians chapter 15 and verse 45. And so it is written, the first man, Adam, was made a living soul. A lot of times you read that, the first man, Adam, you're like, see, he was the first. Especially when you see first, a lot of times people equate first for only. Okay. Either one is correct. But either way, we see first in the scriptures that has a different symbolic meaning. Okay. The first man, Adam, is not referring to the literal first, especially only man. How do I know that? Just read the rest of the verse. The last Adam was made a quickening spirit. Was Yahushua the last man? This right here in 1 Corinthians chapter 15 is showing a similitude, like I said, that Adam was the first Messiah figure before Christ. He was the first Adam, the first man. Hell, Adam even means man. You understand? That's what Adam means. At least one of the means. Adam means man. Okay. So it's referring to the first Adam, the first man given the statute, laws, and commandments. He's the first Adam. Yahushua is the second Adam, the true Adam. Okay. The true man that was given the statute, laws, and commandments and kept them fully for his entire lifetime, where Adam could not. Okay. Because Adam was of the flesh, carnal. Yahushua or Christ was of the spirit. Okay. Verse 46, howbeit that was not first, which is spiritual, talking about Adam, but that which is natural, and afterwards that which is spiritual. So Adam represents the natural man, the carnal man. Okay. Because he fell to lust of his woman in idolatry. And Yahushua did not, even being tempted the same way. So in Matthew chapter 4, you see Satan tempt Yahushua too as well. He just didn't crumble, but Adam did. Okay, under the ill advice of his woman. Okay, verse 47: the first man is of the earth, earthy. The second man is the Lord from heaven. The first man is Adam. That's what it's referring to here. Is of the earth, earthy, meaning he was carnal. You understand? For falling victim to idolatry from Satan. And again, the serpent too, by the way, is not an actual serpent. Okay. It was a man or men that set on a mission out of envy to destroy Adam because of the position that he was in. So they didn't go over there and plot against Adam just for no reason. It's because who he was on planet Earth at that time. He was that guy. Adam was, as they say now, he was him. Okay. Until he wasn't. Verse 48, as is the earthy, such are they also that are earthy. And as is the heavenly, such are they also that are heavenly. Showing you the dichotomy between Yahushua or Adam and Yahushua. Okay, one being natural, one representing the carnal and the flesh, and the other representing the spirit, the heavenly. All right, one representing the bringing of death, and one representing the bringing of life. One representing sin, one representing no blemishes, sinless. Okay, perfection. All right, that's what we see here. Verse 49, and as we have borne the image of the earthy, we shall also bear the image of the heavenly. So that's all it's saying here in 1 Corinthians chapter 15. It's not saying that that Adam was the first and only man. A lot of people go to this verse and they just don't understand what they're reading. Okay. Let's get Daniel chapter 7 and verse 5 real quick. And behold, another beast, a second, like to a bear, and it raised up itself on one side, and it had 3 ribs in the mouth of it between the teeth of it. And they said thus unto it, Arise, devour much flesh. So I think do I have a lesson on Daniel chapter 7? I think it's chapter 8, either 7 or 8. I'll put it in the description, but either way, the whole point here that we see is that, or the point at least that I want to get to right now, you read here, it says that this second beast that was like unto a bear had in his mouth 3 ribs. Do you think Daniel is referring to, at least from a certain standpoint, he's not? So are these 3 ribs in the mouth of the beast? Well, first of all, is this an actual beast? Is this an actual beast? I mean, from a certain standpoint, you could say that, yeah, like this is literally what Daniel was seeing, but is this meant to convey an actual beast? Was the Most High giving Daniel this prophecy about a beast? No, this beast represents something. Okay, it's like to a bear. It represents a nation, a people. Okay, that being a Persian and Medes, but either way, and you see 3 ribs. Is this actual ribs? Matter of fact, really, when you see the word rib that's used there in Genesis 2, it's never actually referring to an actual human rib for the most part. If I'm not mistaken, I looked at it and it's normally referring to something on the side, just something on the side of an actual object, but not a literal human rib. So that would be like the only occurrence where you would see a human rib being used in Genesis chapter 2 and verse 21. So again, a similitude, just like here in Daniel 7 and 5. You see rib being used, but it's not referring to an actual rib. Okay. Let's get 1 Timothy chapter 2 and verse 13. For Adam was first formed, then Eve. Is this literal too as well? Like meaning Adam was first and only formed, then Eve. Eve was formed from Adam's rib? No. Just saying that Adam, the man, is the head. He came first. He was first formed. He was in formed. When you see formed, it's not also referring to creative, because creation and formed, or created and formed, a lot of times take on 2 different meanings. So created, a lot of times, really depends on the context, but that could be referring to literal created, like a creation, and formed is not the same word as created. That more gives the connotation of being formed, being given, like in Adam's case where he was formed, he was given that power and that understanding from the Most High. That's what it means by him being formed first, the man, then the woman. Okay. Because it says Adam was not deceived, but the woman being deceived was in transgression. So it's just referring to the woman and her willingness to accept doctrine. All right. When you read the rest of the chapters, it was, going into the woman. So that's why it used that. Paul here is not trying to say that Adam was the only man, or he was born first out of all men on planet Earth. That was not the point here. He was talking about the woman. The woman was the topic. Okay. At least here in these verses here in 1 Timothy chapter 2. Okay. So just grabbing that real quick as an explanation. I had Tobit chapter 8 pulled up, but really I don't think, do we need this? No. Yeah, blessed the Father's name. Yeah, we're already here. Let's grab verse 6 in Tobit chapter 8. it says, thou madest Adam and gavest him Eve his wife for an helper and stay. So you see, when you read back up to verse 18, where it says that Adam didn't have an helpmeet. Okay, a helpmeet is in reference, of course, to a wife. Not that he didn't have a woman at all. Women weren't around, so he just didn't have nobody at all to like play with. You know, he knew what a wife was at this time, or he knew what a woman was. He just didn't have a wife. Okay, and he had to, right? That's why the Most High gave him a wife. Okay, verse 6, thou madest Adam and gavest him Eve, his wife, for an helper and stay. That's what was happening. All right. When in verse 21, where it says that his rib was taken out, that's exactly what was happening. Of them came mankind, thou hast said, it is not good that man should be alone. Let us make unto him an aid like to himself. Okay. It's pretty simple, right? And then also another thing too, by the way, that the word woman within itself, like where it says here, made he a woman. If you go down to it, the word woman has a lot of etymology within itself. The word woman here, H802, with just wife. You see outline of biblical usage: woman, wife, female, woman, wife, woman married to a man, female of animals, each. Every pronoun. If you look here, let's see what I'm looking for. I'm looking right here, looking for this. The KJV translates Strong's H802 in the following manner. You see here that wife for the same word is actually used more times than for woman. So if you read it over and you think of just wife, it'll make a lot more sense, right? So verse 21, or at least verse 22. And the rib which the Lord God had taken from man made he a wife and brought her into the man. So it's referring to the Most High giving Adam a wife, where it says a woman. So it looks like, it can absolutely look like this is referring to all women, but it's not. Okay. Because again, woman is normally used, at least that word for woman is normally actually used for wife in general. So that's another thing to understand. Okay. When you see woman, a lot of times it's referring to wife here in this passage about Adam and Eve. Okay. One verse also to address, Luke chapter 3 and verse 38, which was the son of Enos, which was the son of Seth, which was the son of Adam, which was the son of God. This also does not mean the only son, when it says the son of God, yes, it's not listed who's Adam physical father was, right? We don't have that information. But either way, this is not saying that Adam was literally the only man. And that's what you'll be hard pressed to find. Where are the scriptures that says Adam was the only man? And this is me more going into the aspect of whether Adam was the only man or not. Okay. Or was Eve the only woman? Okay. This kind of gives us, that, or at least that's why I'm grabbing this to explain that further. But either way, it doesn't say that. So a lot of times you can add on to the scriptures if you're not careful. And I quoted this earlier. Let's get Isaiah chapter 28:9 to close out. Whom shall he teach knowledge? And whom shall he make to understand doctrine? Them that are weaned from the milk and drawn from the breast. A similitude. All right, this is a similitude from a child that's weaned from the milk and drawn from the breast. That drink the milk. Okay, the knowledge from the Most High. Okay. But this is not literal, right? The Most High doesn't teach knowledge to only those that drink actual cow's milk or goat milk. You gotta drink that goat milk, brother. You won't get these scriptures. You gotta drink the milk. No, it's referred to understanding doctrine, to read the scriptures. That's how you understand doctrine. You have to do this. Verse 10, for precept must be upon precept, precept upon precept, line upon line, line upon line, here a little and there a little. That's how you understand the scriptures. You have to go to other accounts. You can't just say, it's automatically that there was an actual rib taken for Adam, because there's no accounts of that. There is no other precepts. There are no other accounts where someone was put to sleep in a deep sleep just so their rib would be taken out to form someone. And you may say, yeah, because that's when woman was formed. But at least you can have one other instance where a body part was taken to create something. There's no other occurrence of that in the scriptures. Okay, so that foundation is weak at best. But we have scriptures to directly imply exactly what I stated, because precept must be upon precept, precept upon precept, line upon line. That's what we went. We just went line upon line, here a little and there a little. That's how you get the understanding of the scriptures, man. You have to go from front to back, get the precepts, man, line upon line. But that's pretty much it. No, Adam's rib was not taken out to literally make Eve and all women. It's referring to a close relative of his that he took as a wife to reserve his seed line. Okay, his bone and his flesh. But that's pretty much it. Lord willing, this was edifying. Until the next time, I bid everyone a mighty shalom.